Horace is in his 40s and tired of being a poet. He writes a letter to his patron explaining that he's finished with verse, that he wants to spend whatever is left on the question of how to live. And then, being a poet, he writes the letter in verse anyway. Somewhere in it, he tells a fable everybody already knew. A lion has grown old and sick. He stays in his cave and puts out word that he would welcome visitors. Plenty come. The fox stays outside. The lion asks why, and the fox says, "The tracks frighten me. Every one of them points toward you. Not one points back." Vestigia nulla retrorsum. No footprints coming back. Horace meant it as advice about flattery and crowds. Know when not to walk in. But the line escaped the fable because it names something larger and colder than a nervous fox. Some doors only work in one direction. Today, 3 men who walked through one on purpose, and one government that fell through by accident. Risto here. History buff, not historian. English isn't my first language, that's kind of the point. Learn a little, laugh a little. That's the deal. Human nature doesn't change, and neither does the plot. History rhymes and keeps the receipts. I mean, somebody always writes it down. Sicily, 310 before our era. Agathocles is tyrant of Syracuse. Tyrant in the Greek sense, a man who took power rather than inherited it, which at the time was closer to a job description than an insult. He's a potter's son. He is also losing badly. Carthage has beaten his army in the field and is now camped outside his walls. The siege is tightening. He has months at most. So he does the thing nobody does. He decides to take the war to Africa. He slips 60 ships through the blockade and lands in Africa. And suddenly, the war is on Carthaginian soil. 14,000 men, give or take, against a city whose navy dominates the Western Mediterranean and reserves he cannot count. Then he burns his fleet. He does it carefully. He does not present it as strategy. He presents it as a religious vow. He tells the men he pledged the ships to Demeter and Persephone, the goddesses of Sicily, in exchange for safe passage. Torches are handed out. Trumpets sound. The officers set fire to their own ships first. And 14,000 men stand on a beach in North Africa and watch every plank that could carry them home turn into an offering. Diodorus says they cheered. Then they turned around and saw what was behind them. Irrigated gardens, vineyards, orchards, herds, the richest farmland in the Mediterranean, and nothing standing between it and them. It works. He beats a Carthaginian army several times his size. He takes Tunis. Inside Carthage there is panic, and according to Diodorus, Carthage responds by sacrificing 500 children. Then it comes apart. Allies defect, supplies fail, the luck runs out. 3 years in, Agathocles finds a ship and leaves. At night, without telling anyone. He abandons the army in Africa, and he abandons his 2 sons along with it. The soldiers work out what has happened and kill both boys. The man who took away everybody's way home had quietly kept one for himself.
January 49 before our era. Julius Caesar is standing at the edge of a river you could probably wade across. The Rubicon is small. It takes its name, most likely, from the reddish clay in its bed, rubeus, red. It matters for exactly one reason. It is the line. South of it is Italy. North of it is his province. A Roman commander is not supposed to cross that line with an army. Do it anyway, and you have committed an act of war. No hearing, no appeal. The crossing is the crime. Caesar has spent 2 years negotiating the terms of his return. Give up the command and come home as a private citizen, and his enemies can prosecute him. His career is finished. His life may not be far behind. Keep the command and stay north, and he is a rebel for the rest of his life. Suetonius has him hesitate on the bank and tell his officers that they can still turn back, but that once over that little bridge, everything will have to be settled by the sword. Then the line about the die, alia iacta est. Except that Plutarch says he said it in Greek, quoting a comedy. Let the die be cast. A man at the most serious moment of his life, quoting a playwright. We'll never know. And here is the part I enjoy. We don't know where the Rubicon is. The river silted up, shifted, changed names. In 1933, Mussolini's government officially settled the matter and declared one of them to be the Rubicon, and the argument has not entirely stopped since. The most famous border in political language is a river we misplaced. 18 centuries later, a man on an island reads all of this very carefully. Napoleon has Elba. He has a title, a flag, a guard, an income, and about 12,000 subjects. He is 45 years old. He could die there in a bed. On the 1st of March, 1815, he lands at Golfe Juan with roughly 1,000 men, against a kingdom. There is no version of this that ends in a negotiation, and he knows it. Bourbon France will not offer him a smaller island. It will offer him a wall. He avoids royalist Provence and goes up through the Alps, snow, mule tracks, mountain villages. On the 7th of March, near La Fraye, the road is blocked. The 5th Regiment of the line, sent up from Grenoble, muskets loaded, orders to stop him. He walks forward, alone ahead of his own men, into musket range. And he opens his coat and tells them, "If any one of you wants to kill his emperor, here I am." Nobody fires. The regiment joins him. 20 days after landing, he sleeps in the Tuileries. 3 months later, Waterloo. He crossed his own Rubicon. He knew what came next. Now east and down the social ladder. The Qin dynasty has just unified China. It runs on law, harsh law, written down, enforced by a bureaucracy. On paper, it is magnificent. In practice, it carries a flaw that will kill it. Under the Qin, failure is not something you explain. The penalties are fixed in advance, and nobody has the authority to soften them, which sounds like fairness until you are the one standing in front of it. 209 before our era. A minor official named Liu Bang is escorting a group of penal laborers west to Mount Li to work on the first emperor's tomb, the vast mausoleum complex, the one with the terracotta army. At this point, it is a building site that consumes an astonishing amount of forced labor. Liu Bang is nobody, a village patrol officer from Pei. He drinks, he runs up tabs, he is popular in the way that men who owe money are popular. The laborers start slipping away at night, a few on the first night, a few more on the second. He does the arithmetic on the road. At this rate, he arrives with nothing, and a man who arrives with nothing does not get to explain himself. He is already, in the only sense that matters, walking his own execution route. So he stops, he drinks, and he frees the men. About 10 of them stay with him. He hides in the mountains. The story comes from Sima Qian, more than a century later, and a dynasty's founding does not get told without omens. A white snake, a weeping woman on the road, the usual signs that heaven has already picked a winner. But the arithmetic is real, and it isn't only his. The same year, a very different convoy. 2 officers named Chen Sheng and Wu Guang are marching conscripts to a garrison, and the rain has made them late. They run the same numbers and reach the same answer. Their revolt is one of the sparks that brings the dynasty down. That's the flaw. When failing small and rebelling outright carry the same penalty, the state has quietly told every man on that road which of the two to choose. Remove the gradient, and you remove the brakes. 15 years later, Liu Bang is emperor. The Han dynasty he founds will run for 4 centuries and give the Chinese majority the name it still uses today. Berlin, the 9th of November 1989. The East German leadership is trying to let air out of a tire. Thousands of East Germans are already leaving through Hungary and Czechoslovakia, and the pressure has become unsustainable. So new travel rules are drawn up and put to the Politburo. Not open borders, easier travel with applications and permits. It is drafted in a single day, and one crucial detail is still dangerously unclear. From when? The text is handed to Günther Schabowski, a senior party official, minutes before a televised press conference. He was not in the meeting. He has barely read it. He reaches the end of a long and dull hour and reads the note out. An Italian journalist asks when it takes effect. Schabowski looks at the paper. He shuffles the pages. And he says, as far as he knows, immediately, without delay. Within minutes, the news is everywhere, and East Berliners begin walking toward the crossing points. At Bornholmer Strasse, a passport control officer named Harald Jäger is eating dinner in front of the same broadcast. He calls his superiors. Nobody gives him an order he can actually use. The crowd goes from dozens to hundreds to thousands, pressed up against a barrier held by a handful of men. He tries a compromise first. Let the loudest ones through, stamp their photographs to void the passports, quietly expel them. It doesn't hold. More keep arriving. Nobody is going home. At around 11:30, without a clear order from above, Harald Jäger lifts the barrier. That's it. That's the whole thing. A misread note, an unanswered telephone, and a middle-aged official deciding that whatever happened next, he was not going to turn the crowd into a massacre. Nobody in that story chose a point of no return. There was no torch, no river, no arithmetic on a road. There was a door, and once it was open, closing it would have meant somebody taking responsibility for closing it. Agathocles has had a strange afterlife. Somewhere in the last few decades, his beach turned into a slide. Burn the boats. You'll find it in management books, in pitch decks, in the kind of speech where a man tells a room there is no plan B, and then everyone goes back to their desk. It's a good line. It costs nothing. The men who actually did it were standing on sand, watching their way home turn to ash. Many of them would never see Sicily again. 3 men shut the door behind them. It went well for one of them, and only for a while. A committee in Berlin closed one by accident and changed the map of Europe, which suggests the difference between resolve and clerical error is mostly a matter of what happens next. That's it for today. Same plot, different century, and human nature keeps writing the script. If you enjoyed this, the easiest way to support the show is to subscribe. That way you won't miss the next one. I'm Risto. Thanks for listening. See you next time.